All right, what's going on, guys? Farzin Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Chief Zone podcast. Thank you for taking the time to download and listen. For all of you watching live on Facebook and YouTube, shout out to you guys as well. Big thanks to all of you making the Chief Zone part of your morning, your afternoon, your night, whatever time of day it may be for you while you are listening in. Merry Christmas to all of you. This will be the final show before Christmas, so I want to get that out of the way. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to all of you. Hope you all have a safe and happy Christmas and holiday season. Is that okay to say Christmas and holiday season? I'm not offending anyone, not stepping on any toes over that. Am I? Hopefully not. But if you're upset, stay upset. But nonetheless, second episode we are doing this week, obviously a bit of a different week, making up for no show last week. No Red Friday live chat today since we pushed the podcast back to today. So instead, we are doing the show live on a Friday evening. Some things to get into, of course, going to be breaking down the game between the Chiefs and the Raiders on Christmas Day. That'll be broadcast on two different networks. Should be interesting. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce both leading the NFL in a stat that a lot of you probably were not aware of, and I think it is worth bringing up. A UFC fighter went after Travis Kelce. Andy Reid commented on Connor Embry, the wide receivers coach. Connor Embry also spoke on Friday, worth bringing up his comments about Kadarius Toney. Chiefs signed a couple of players as well to add to their offense. So we'll talk about all of that and more on this episode here on the Chief Zone podcast. Facebook.com/Farzin Vasugian. That is the Facebook page. YouTube.com/@the-Chief-Zone. That is the YouTube page. You can watch the shows live from there. Also archived. So if you missed any of the show live and you prefer the video version, you can check it out there. Before we move on, want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. I am more of a viewer from home. I like to watch sports from home mostly, but when I do go out to games such as the Chiefs-Raiders game at Allegiant Stadium I went to earlier this year, went to the NFL season opener between the Chiefs and Lions, went to the Big 12 championship game in downtown Kansas City, the Western Conference Finals earlier this year in Las Vegas. That is big thanks to the guys over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the spot to go to buy your tickets, whether it's a football game, bowl season going on right now, college basketball, the NBA, the NHL, baseball tickets already out there. You want to catch the Royals later this year, you can do so through SeatGeek. If there's a green dot next to the ticket price, that is good. Definitely worth getting that ticket. If there's a red dot next to it, avoid it. That means you would be overpaying for that ticket. So go to SeatGeek.com. And if you're a new customer, you can use my promo code FARZIN for $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. This is only good for first-time customers for SeatGeek. So go to SeatGeek.com at checkout, use my promo code FARZIN, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Before we do start, I do want to mention Ed Budde, who passed away earlier this week, I believe at the age of 83, former Kansas City Chiefs offensive guard, played for the Chiefs in the late 60s and early 70s. For those of you who are longtime listeners of the podcast, you all know that I've had Ed Budde on this podcast a few times back in the day. Still remember how that happened. My dad, through a client of his at the time, actually met Ed Budde, a mutual connection essentially. And my dad just said, "Hey, listen, my son does a podcast. It'd be so cool if you gave him the time to interview you." And Ed didn't even hesitate. Immediately gave my dad his number to give to me. So I will never forget that about Ed on a personal level. So it's just hard to speak about a subject like this because I did get to know Ed a little bit on a personal level. So very sad that we lost Ed Budde, one of the good guys truly in the sport. And I remember talking to him one time about his son, who also played for the Kansas City Chiefs, Brad Budde. If you guys saw the NFL draft, both Ed and Brad together got to announce a draft pick. I don't know if it was a Chiefs draft pick. I think it was a Chiefs draft pick. But they got to do it together, which was such a cool moment for the two of them. I think Ed Budde truly is the most underrated offensive lineman in NFL history. I've said this many times. the Chiefs that won the team that won the Super Bowl, the group they had in the late 60s, going to 2 Super Bowls, winning the second against the Minnesota Vikings. That is a team that is mostly known for their defense. I mean, you look at the defensive side of the ball: Bobby Bell, Willie Lanier, Buck Buchanan, Emmett Thomas. There's so many guys on that defense in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. But the only offensive player from that team in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is Len Dawson. And I think, I think Jim Tyree should be in, but he won't, given how things ended with him. Ed Budde, this was the first offensive lineman to win the AP Offensive Player of the Week award, which obviously you don't see many offensive linemen win that award. Hardly ever. Might happen once every 3, 4, maybe 5 years. I think nowadays in the NFL, with all these offensive stats, and especially with sports betting and the props you can do, I think people focus far more on those skill position players than offensive players. You never see an offensive lineman win Offensive Player of the Year or Offensive Rookie of the Year, anything like that. And I think that's a shame, because it truly does tell you how undervalued offensive linemen are from a public's perspective. Look at Mitchell Schwartz. The guy wanted to go to a Pro Bowl because a lot of these guys do get bonuses on their contracts. Schwartz was the highest graded offensive lineman by PFF for multiple seasons consecutively too, but never went to a Pro Bowl. So, I think there needs to be something done to recognize offensive linemen more in this manner. But not to get too off topic, but I think Ed Budde and Otis Taylor, both guys we have lost recently, 2 guys who should be in the Hall of Fame, absolutely 100% should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And, they're still, I never say never, I guess. There's a chance they can always get in, but unfortunately, they're no longer with us to be able to have that. But I still think you can still make it happen. There's no reason why those 2 guys should not be in. Unfortunately, I don't think it happens, because as the years go by, you have more and more former players that had played the game, a lot of them who did really well. And we are in an era of recency bias, and a lot of the players you see who had played more recently get in sooner than expected. So I don't know. It'd be an uphill battle. I hope it happens for Ed Budde and Otis Taylor one day. But I did want to recognize the loss of Ed Budde on this podcast before we move on to talk about the Chiefs in this game. By the way, for those of you joining in the comments, please let me know your thoughts on anything. Yes, Alexander. Yes, definitely. Concerts, whatever you want to consider. By the way, I see a lot of happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you, you guys. I see you guys. Samuel, D, a lot of you guys, appreciate it. So Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you guys as well. If you guys have any comments, questions, let me know. Since we're not doing a Red Friday live chat tonight, I'd be willing to take some questions and comments here, more than I usually do on the Chiefs Zone. So feel free to let me know your thoughts on anything that you guys are thinking about here. Let me Dale says, I hope Justin Ross will get quality snaps, but Andy probably won't, and keep MVS in. The word has been that Justin Ross has had a very difficult time. And by the way, thanks for the happy holidays, Dale, you as well, and everyone else watching and listening. He's had a very difficult time understanding the offense, kind of getting a grasp of the offense, which is a shame, because for a year and a half, he's had a lot of hype, and we're just not seeing it. We're not seeing it. I thought he looked good in the preseason, definitely good enough to get a roster spot. But we're not seeing that transition, that hype that a lot of people said that he's a first round talent. Not even close to it. In fact, the things we've heard about him in practice, at least, I don't know. By the way, Susan, you're asking my projection for the score. I will share that later on in the podcast, so stay tuned. If you're not able to watch all the way through, you can definitely come back and watch the archived version of the podcast, whether it's on here, YouTube, or any of the podcasting sites later on. So I'll get back to you guys' comments here. I do want to talk about Thursday's practice, Kadarius Toney didn't practice with a hip injury. Jerick McKinnon with a groin injury. Nick Bolton had a wrist and an illness yesterday, but did practice today, returned to practice today. Cam Jones also had an illness, but also missed today's practice. Donovan Smith returned to practice yesterday, but did miss today's practice, which I thought was interesting. McCole Hardman, they started the 21-day window for his practice, so he returned to practice yesterday and was limited in practice today. Isaiah Pacheco, not on the injury report, which is great news. He, of course, coming off that shoulder surgery, very minor, just a cleanup procedure there. Practiced yesterday for the first time in almost 3 weeks, so he is practicing. Now, the Chiefs do have two new players that they signed earlier this week. The first, wide receiver Anthony Miller, former Chicago Bear, who played under Matt Nagy in Chicago, also played in Houston, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Indianapolis. With San Francisco, it was only during the preseason, and with Indianapolis, it was only a part of their practice squad earlier this year, only for a week too. Never started more than 7 games in a season. 2019 was his best year, where he had 52 catches for 656 yards and a pair of touchdowns. He did have 7 touchdown catches as a rookie, though. So he's had some success, but not on a consistent basis. No long-term success that would make you think that this guy is a solution to anything in the imminent future. But familiarity, especially when you have an offense that's struggling right now, certainly worth the signing in my eyes. Again, is this a guy who comes back and maybe sticks around and tries out for the team next year? Possibly. We don't know exactly that, but given that the wide receivers have not been very good this year, even though the coaches are trying to convince you otherwise, yeah, I think if you're a wide receiver and you want to make an NFL team, you want to show yourself, Kansas City would be the spot to go to. Why not? The other tight end, pass catcher, I should say, tight end Isaiah Gaithings, an undrafted rookie from Middle Tennessee State, was with the New York Jets earlier in the offseason. I believe spent a little bit of time with the Chiefs during training camp and now is back in Kansas City. I could not find any stats on this guy, but there is a picture of him in a Chiefs jersey. And I don't think this is a guy that a lot of people ever talked about either, but has somewhat some familiarity with the Chiefs, though very minimal. So Gaithings, a part of the Kansas City Chiefs team, and I believe they're both on the practice squad for now, but that could change maybe later on. So we'll see. All right, before we move on, got to give a shout out to another sponsor of ours, Cable Dahmer Cadillac. I got my first Cadillac earlier this year. I got to tell you, I love it, man. I really do. Now, it might be too late to make a purchase for the holiday season, but never too late to make a change if you are in the market for a new vehicle, whether it is a Cadillac or any other vehicle, new or used. Go ask for Scott Toddy over at Cable Dahmer Cadillac in Kansas City, which is off 435 near State Line. So go there, ask for Scott Toddy. My brother purchased the car from him. I purchased the car from him. So he's very familiar with my family and I, for sure. So Scott, almost like he knows the family on a personal level. So go ask for Scott Toddy. He'll help you out. Very knowledgeable, knows a lot about the industry, knows a lot about the vehicles. And the thing with a lot of new cars today is they come with so many bells and whistles, and Cable Dahmer Cadillac will take care of you. So when you leave the parking lot, when you leave the dealership, you will leave knowing everything you need to know about your vehicle. My vehicle has Wi-Fi. I didn't know cars could have Wi-Fi. Super Cruise, which is a very unique, it's almost like cruise control, but the steering wheel works on its own. I have tried it. So it's a little scary, but it's actually a cool feature. And so many other great features on the new Cadillac XT6 that I got. The technology package, very cool. So go to Cable Dahmer Cadillac off 435 and State Line in Kansas City, Missouri, and ask for Scott Toddy. Tell him Farzin Vousoughian sent you. All right. I told you guys I wanted to share a couple of stats that I think might surprise some people. It definitely surprised me when I saw this on social media. So Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in total yards, passing and rushing. I want to be clear about this because I said this clearly, and I think some people were still confused about this. Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in total yards, which means passing yards and rushing yards, with 4,307 yards. Or excuse me, 4,037 yards. If you guys recall, last year he broke the NFL record for most total yards in a single season. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he played 17 games. Folks, we're going to have an 18 game seasons very soon. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So a lot of NFL records you saw from back when they played 16 games in a season or 14 games in a season, I mean, they're all going to be broken once we switch over to the 18 game format. So a lot of records are going to be broken. Now, I do agree. I think something should be done about it to maybe help separate some of those categories, put whatever records were broken in the 14 game format, 16 game format, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. But nonetheless, Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL right now with total yards, 4,037 yards. This is while his offense is leading the league in dropped passes. Now, I didn't get a chance to read too much into this, but I did see a headline that the Chiefs are dropping passes almost at a very similar rate to the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. Just remember that team a few years ago? I believe was coached by Hugh Jackson. So that is the state of the Chiefs offense. They're dropping passes at a rate a winless team once had, but their quarterback is leading the NFL in total yards. If that doesn't tell you what kind of quarterback Patrick Mahomes is, I've got nothing else for you. Now, I'm not here to suggest that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. I don't think he's in the top 5. Off the top of my head, if I had to give you in order, I would say Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy. I still think Dak Prescott is up there. I really do. I think Tyreek Hill should be in the conversation. I know he has not played a whole lot lately, but still should absolutely be in the conversation for MVP. I think I gave 4 right there. I think Lamar Jackson definitely should be in the MVP conversation as well. The 5th one probably up for debate, but those are my top 5 right now if I had to give them to you. Another stat that the Chiefs have a league leader in, Travis Kelce leads all tight ends in receiving yards with 924 yards. That is not bad for a 34-year-old player who missed the first game of the year, who has dealt with a knee injury, an ankle injury, and just recently with an elbow injury. Oh, and by the way, isn't he, according to a lot of people on Twitter, isn't he old and washed up? According to the same people on Twitter, he doesn't care for football anymore. He's more focused on the entertainment industry. He's more focused on being in front of the camera. He's more focused on his girlfriend. Yet somehow, some way, he has more receiving yards than any other tight end out there. Is Travis Kelce having the type of season he normally has? No, he's not. He's getting older. The injuries are definitely starting to take a toll on him. Yet this guy is still leading his position in receiving yards. He has plenty of time to do this, but I think he can do it this week. He will become the 7th player in NFL history to have 8 straight seasons of 1,000 receiving yards. Okay, just to give you an idea of some of those players who accomplished that feat, it's a very short list, and they're all wide receivers, obviously, because no other tight end has had more than 3 or 4 yards of 1,000 yards receiving. I said yards, I meant years, of 1,000 yards receiving in a career. Travis Kelce is very close to doing it for 8 straight seasons. And to tell you some of the guys on that list, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Chris Carter, Marvin Harrison, Torrey Holt, and obviously an active player, Mike Evans. Those are the only 6 players to have 8 straight seasons of 1,000 receiving yards. And Travis Kelce is a tight end doing that. That is pretty damn impressive and not bad for a guy who, again, supposedly is old and washed up and doesn't care about football anymore and is more focused on his girlfriend or all these other things that people are talking about. So not bad at all if you are Travis Kelce. So listen, man, I know we've been down on this offense. I have been as well, but I think you have some key pieces to lean on. I think come playoff time, you don't treat Rashee Rice like a rookie. Now, he might have those rookie jitters that every rookie will have for their first playoff game. I mean, he's human. I mean, if I was a rookie playing in the NFL, no matter how good my rookie season was, I'd probably be a little nervous going into my first playoff game. But I think once you get a few snaps in, once you get that first quarter under your belt, you'll feel pretty good about things. because the Chiefs are going to need Rashee Rice in the playoffs. They're going to need Travis Kelce in the playoffs. The running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gained a lot of favor recently from a lot of fans. Maybe not the way we wanted it to happen because the standard is not very high right now, considering the wide receivers and the whole drop situation going on. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably has made the best catch in the end zone so far by a player this year. So the running backs that's definitely a crew that you want to utilize come playoff time. And hopefully Jerick McKinnon, his groin injury isn't as serious as it sounds. Well, I shouldn't say it's as serious as it sounds. We don't know the severity of it, though he's not practicing this week so far. We'll see tomorrow what the injury report has for us. But you hope that he can at least come back come playoff time because you need that guy. You know what Jerick McKinnon is capable of. Isaiah Pacheco is coming back. A guy who has been very consistent for your offense this year. One of the few bright spots for your offense this year. The Chiefs do have the pieces to succeed and move on. It's just, these offensive receivers, guys like Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, they're good at getting separation. But the drops have been a killer for this offense, for sure. So at some point, you got to think that improvement's coming, even though it's so late in the season. And if not, well, I think you've got some other guys you can rely on. I know a lot of people want to see more of Noah Gray, me as well. Someone in the comment was mentioning Richie James. Jim was talking about Richie James, hoping that he gets more snaps and more. And he will because Sky Moore is on the injury report. I'm sorry, not the injury report, on injured reserve. But Andy Reid did say there is a possibility he could come back. I would not put money on it, but they know more than I do for sure. So you got some guys on offense. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. You have some pieces there to work with come playoff time. And listen, you got a couple of tough games coming up. You got Cincinnati, whose offense is playing very well with Jake Browning, honestly better than Joe Burrow was this year. But that Bengals defense has been garbage all year long. One of the worst third down defenses, missing a lot of tackles all year. So Kansas City has an opportunity to really score a lot of points on New Year's Eve. Just hope the defense can keep up with the Bengals offense. And then you have the Chargers. I at the time, I said it would still be a tough game, but that was when Justin Herbert was there. If it's going to be Easton Stick, well, you got yourself another win there. Chiefs are facing all backup quarterbacks the rest of the season, the regular season, that is. And listen, with all the quarterbacks getting hurt this year, there's a possibility they may face a backup quarterback in the playoffs. So if you're the Chiefs defense, man, you got to hope that, you continue the success that you have, and the offense has to take advantage at some point. Absolutely has to do so at some point. You're saying Justin Watson needs more targets, Milton? Yeah. I mean, he's had a lot of drops, but he's your second best wide receiver. So I can understand where you're coming from there. Rochelle says maybe discussed it already, but what about the underinflated balls in the Patriots game? Is that normal to know before the game? Belichick said he knew. I think Belichick said the team was not involved. So, we have not discussed this yet. I'll get into it very briefly. For those who don't know, there were deflated footballs in Foxborough in a game between the Chiefs and the Patriots. Imagine that. Deflated footballs in Foxborough. Where have we seen that before? Boy. Listen, I'm not here to suggest anything. I think I remember someone from the Colts defense went on Twitter at the time and said, look, we could have played with a slippery slope and we still got our asses kicked in that game. But it is a little weird that these things keep happening to the like Spygate, Deflategate. Didn't the Patriots get caught in 2020 for spying on the Bengals? At the time, the Bengals were the worst team in the NFL, or the second worst team in the NFL. Like, listen, I have a lot of respect for Bill Belichick, though I think there is some truth to the fact that he's not the high and mighty coach without Tom Brady. But why do you have all of these things that are constantly like, this is not, at some point, it's not a coincidence. Okay. At some point, these kinds of things are just not a coincidence. But in the first quarter, there were deflated footballs, hence why both kickers missed. So if you want to, by the way, I made a joke on X. I know I call it Twitter already, but I made a joke on there saying that Harrison Butker is 0 for 1 when he kicks deflated balls. He is perfect when kicking a ball that's not deflated, and a couple Patriots fans got all worked up about it. It was a joke, people. Relax. Don't remember the kid's name they traded to the Panthers. Oh, yeah, Amir Smith-Marset. Yeah, I was a little... I mean, you can't keep 8 receivers, but, man, you have 7. Obviously, knowing the things we know now, Amir Smith-Marset would have been a better option over Justin Ross. I'm not quite sure why Smith-Marset's not getting playing time on offense. I know there was a Thursday night game. It was the same Thursday night game. Jason Kelce was a guest broadcaster, and Smith-Marset had a punt return touchdown, which was cool to see. But that's all we've really seen from Smith-Marset so far this year. Yeah, CEH did show up 100%. Look at the chat. People really coming around with CEH. It's good to see. Good to see indeed. One thing, a couple other things I want to get into before we talk about the Chiefs and the Raiders game. So Andy Reid was asked during Thursday's press conference about the job that Connor Embry has been doing, said that he's doing a good job, and used Rashee Rice's development as evidence of this. Okay, 1 out of 7, not bad. I guess that's, if you got 1 out of 7, you're doing a good job. Connor Embry did speak to the media today. The position coaches usually speak once a month, just a couple times this season. And Embry was asked about Kadarius Toney and the job he's done. Obviously, Toney has had a lot of drops this year, especially recently. Of course, the offside call against the Buffalo Bills. And Connor was asked about the job that Kadarius Toney's doing. His response, quote, "He's been doing good." And he talks about grading him and says that, he doesn't give him Fs on these grades for the games. Interesting. And then he also said he doesn't let all the noise get to him. Okay, that is a lie, because Kadarius Toney has spent a lot of time responding to New York Giants fans that troll him on social media. So that is all complete bullshit. Listen, I'm not expecting Andy Reid or anybody for that matter to throw anyone under the bus. Patrick Mahomes, you saw some frustration in his face when he threw that interception to Kadarius Toney. Even in that, I'm sorry, not interception to KT, but you know what I meant, off his hands that went for a pick. Even on that pass to MVS that should have been a touchdown against the Eagles, you hear Mahomes in the press conference, and he always does this when the team loses and it's not on him. He says, "Yeah, I could have thrown a better ball there." Like, he's always taking the blame whenever it's really not his fault. So you're not going to see anyone on this team start pointing fingers publicly. I'm sure a lot of discussions are being had behind closed doors. I was listening to this NFL Sirius XM NFL radio on my way getting ready for the podcast, and they were talking about the fact that Pete Carroll the week before had actually called out a couple of players publicly when he went on local radio in Seattle to do his weekly interview for that station. And you don't see coaches do that kind of thing. You don't see coaches call out players, specifically certain individuals. So to me, it's like, you got to be careful with that kind of thing, because that can hurt a football team's morale, especially a team like Seattle that is fighting for a playoff spot, whereas the Chiefs are in a very comfortable position. All they have to do is just win one game of the 3 remaining, and they win the AFC West. Obviously, they have much higher aspirations than that. Trying to get the number 1 seed, probably will get the 2 seed. But you get the idea. The Chiefs are just not going to do that kind of thing. But when you are going to tell us publicly that, Rashee Rice, because he's doing so well as a rookie receiver, our position coach is doing very well. And the position coach is trying to convince us that Kadarius Toney is doing good this year. I'm sorry, but that is just not true. And I'm pulling up the stat. Kadarius Toney's averaging like 5 or 6 yards a catch. Yeah, he's averaging 6.3 yards per catch. He has 27 receptions for 169 yards. Okay, you're playing 169 yards. How many games has Kadarius Toney missed this year? He's played 13 games. 13 games, 169 yards with that kind of speed. And you're really trying to convince us. Sorry about that. You're really trying to convince us that he's doing well. Listen, I understand that fans are fans and the media is the media, and that none of us know the intricacies, the specific intricacies of the sport of football. I get that. But you don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a player. You don't have to be a scout. You don't have to be, because I see some fans throwing the word couch coach out there. You don't have to be an expert on these things to know that what the coaches are telling you is BS. Joshua says the lie detector determined that was a lie. Yes, that was indeed a lie. Again, I'm not expecting coaches to throw guys under the bus. I'm really not. But don't feed us bullshit, please. I have eyes. I have a brain. I have common sense. I can watch these things and tell you that Kadarius Toney is not doing good. In fact, it's the complete opposite of good. It's horrible this year. Horrible. Elaine says need to get touchdowns when the Chiefs are in the red zone. Chiefs have no problems moving the football. That's not been the issue this year. But when they do get to the red zone, you do see them stall a bit. Whenever you see them having a good drive, it goes off a player's hand, someone fumbles, and Rashee Rice is part of that. But you're willing to cut him a little bit of slack because he's been your best receiver so far this year. Sam says, in your opinion, can the Chiefs cover the spread against the Raiders? I sure as hell hope so, because I have a 5-game parlay. So far, I'm 1 for 1, and all of them I have covering the spread, and the Chiefs are part of that. So yes, Sam, I do think so, and I'll get to my score prediction a little later on. Jamie says, why don't we line up CEH and our other running backs at slot? They are certainly doing that. Now, you can't do that here's my thing. If I had to tell you my top 5 most reliable pass catchers, actually, I'll give you 6. All the running backs, so CEH, Clyde Edwards, I just said CEH, Jerick McKinnon, and Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Rashee Rice. Now, those guys cannot play every single snap. You got to rotate your guys in and out. You hardly ever see a wide receiver or a tight end or a running back play every single snap. That's just not the case. So you're going to see those guys get involved, I think, more as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, which we are very close to that point right now. Because if you're Andy Reid and if you're the Chiefs, yeah, sure, MVS is fast. Sure, Kadarius Toney's fast, but they've been a liability this year. So you're going to have to look at who is reliable and not a liability. Well, CEH has been somewhat reliable. You look at Isaiah Pacheco coming back from injury. We'll see how many snaps he gets in this first game back. But this is a guy that's been very consistent for you this year. Jerick McKinnon, he got the hot hand last week. Hopefully his injury is not going to make him miss any games, or at least too many games, because they need him. So you're definitely going to see some of that, though, Jamie. No question about it. You're already seeing some of it. You just can't do it every single play. You just can't. Rochelle says, what happened with Russell Wilson and his coach? Well, they did have a blow up on the sideline in the Lions game. I think, and I know the Broncos have been playing much better lately, but I think there's still this stigma of Russell Wilson and, how he came into the team with his own office and all these things and not really relating to the rest of the team. Listen, Patrick Mahomes and his wife, don't get me wrong, they do a lot of great in the community, but they're not relatable people. Brittany, I think, was showing off on her social media a very expensive earmuffs from Burberry. And listen, I'm not shaming it. It's her money. They earn it. Do whatever you want. But how many people are making that kind of purchase? Not a lot. They used to fly first class. I know they would post that on social media, but now they fly privately on charter flights because they're going to get swarmed by everyone if they do fly first class publicly. They're just not as relatable. in those kinds of regards there. And I think that's the thing that's going on with Russell Wilson, that, he's kind of living that lifestyle too, especially with his wife's net worth. But Patrick Mahomes has made plenty of attempts to connect with his teammates. Every year, I mean, you saw recently on social media, he just got golf carts, custom-made golf carts for his offensive line. He also got them golf clubs the year before, hooked them up with some goodies in years past too. So you have that, but Russell Wilson, I don't know if he's made any attempt to try to connect with his teammates and be more relatable with them. I don't think he has. Yeah, that blow up on the sideline, never a good look. Never a good look. But it's never too late, man. It is never too late. You still have some time. We still got we still have the game to break down. Joshua says, I want to see more 2 and 3 tight end sets. How about you? Yeah, I certainly do. I don't want to knock on Blake Bell for one mistake, but this late in the season, when you have a rookie linebacker that comes and snags that ball away from you, fighting tooth and nail for that football for an interception, it is kind of hard to want to rely on him a little more. I like Jody Fortson, I really do, but Jody Fortson unfortunately is injured and not a part of the team this year. So I'd like to see more 2 tight end sets. That I will agree with 100%. Yeah, Pacheco will be on the field. That will be good to see. Jim says Chris Jones was upset. Yeah, it's funny. The defensive line coach was talking because the question was brought up about how him and Chris kind of had that little moment on the sidelines during the Buffalo Bills game, and the coach threw the tablet down, and one question was asked, did the Microsoft Surface survive? He goes, yes, the Microsoft Surface did survive, which is pretty funny, and good promotion for Microsoft Surface. Casey needs to come out running and gunning. Yeah, I certainly think, go with your strengths. Right now, those deep passes are just not there for you. They're really not. They're really, really not. I've said this many times. Go back to the Alex Smith dink and dunk passing offense. What's wrong with that? Okay. You can win with that style of football if you're the Chiefs. Don't force things that are just not happening. And if you do more of the dink and dunk, short yardage, medium yardage types of passes, well, then the long game will open up late in a game when the defense is tired out and you're going to beat them. You just got to hope the guy you're throwing it to catches it. That's all. Chris Jones seemed upset about the golf carts. I think he was being facetious. Listen, Chris Jones is making a shit ton of money. So if he wants one for himself, he can certainly afford that. Now, for the rest of his defensive line, his teammates up there at the line of scrimmage, maybe not so much, but I think he was being facetious with all of that. Real quickly, I do want to touch on this. Colby Covington went after Travis Kelce. For those of you who don't know who Colby Covington is, he is a UFC fighter who fights in the welterweight division. Really a phenomenal fighter whose wrestling is his biggest strength, and has been one of the top welterweights for several years now. He fought for the UFC welterweight title this past Saturday and lost, and he's actually now 0-3 in undisputed title fights. He did win the interim welterweight title, but it's the interim title. It's not really, and it was stripped from him due to inactivity. Now, some background worth noting: Colby Covington was not a guy that anyone ever talked about, but he fought in Brazil once and he won. And he just lashed out at the Brazilian crowd, calling them certain names that I don't want to repeat on here. Yeah. And then he put out his mass support for Donald Trump. And now I don't care what his politics are, have whatever politics you want, but he has built this character of, I'm going to make the welterweight division great again, just like how Donald Trump is going to make America great again. It's like, okay, now you're using someone else's gimmick. I'm not trying to say Donald Trump as a gimmick. That's a slogan. Every politician has a slogan. But he's using that so hard. Keeps talking about making the UFC great again, making the welterweight division great again. It's like, dude, come on, chill out a little bit. And in every interview he does, he'll always like turn a few questions into Donald Trump when it has nothing to do with Trump, and we'll talk about him making America great. It's like, dude, chill out. Now, Colby Covington has been very controversial. He has attacked upcoming opponents on personal level to the point where they've actually confronted him in public. In fact, he actually suffered a chipped tooth. One of his opponents and former friends met him at a nightclub, and let's just say they went at each other at that nightclub when he did not expect it. His opponent this past weekend, Leon Edwards, the welterweight champion, Leon Edwards lost his father at the age of 13, was murdered at a nightclub. Colby Covington brought that up in a press conference to try to get under his skin and to use it for entertainment purposes to try to sell the fight and get more pay-per-view buys, which I just don't agree with. Dana White, the president of the UFC, he said he certainly does not agree with the comment, but he also tried to justify it by saying, well, pay-per-view sales went up 25%. Come on, man. Listen, a lot of fighters talk shit, but a lot of fighters don't bring up family members. In fact, a lot of UFC fighters are parading around his loss because he looked horrible. He blamed it on ring rust one day. He goes to Fox News and says he didn't win because the judges don't want to award him the title because he's connected to Donald Trump. Then he goes on a podcast, the PBD podcast, and he blamed it on his leg that he broke. Now, on the same PBD podcast, they spend a lot of time talking about politics, the First Amendment, all these things. And Colby Covington is proud of the fact that he does speak freely. And he talks about the fact that NBA players cannot speak freely. And he also brings up the fact that Travis Kelce is doing the left's work here because he's doing a Pfizer commercial. In fact, the specific quote from Colby Covington is, Travis Kelce is one of the biggest pieces of shit of all time. The fact that he is advising people to do that, to get two shots at once. If you guys saw the commercial, you know he's not doing it. He's just telling people to do it because he's getting paid off and bought by Pfizer. It's disgusting. Then he talks about the relationship between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, because that was also brought up on the same podcast. And Colby Covington says that's a fake relationship. That's just the left putting these two powerful figures together so they can be role models and teach these nasty things to kids today. You can tell that the left is just going after the most famous people they can, the athletes, the celebrities, the entertainers, and they're just getting in them to shove their narrative down these kids' throats. So according to Colby Covington, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, they are put together by the left to be role models for them and to teach them nasty things, to teach kids nasty things, because this is the same guy that brought up someone's dead father 2 days before a fight, the same guy who goes after another opponent's family, bringing up his kids, the same guy who is bringing up a lot of racial comments about other fighters here and there. But Travis Kelce is the nasty one and is the bad guy here. You know what's interesting? Colby Covington, he is, so the way the UFC press conferences work, on Wednesday, all the fighters do solo press conferences. So at different times, they'll come out and meet the media. Then on Thursday, before the fight, which is usually on a Saturday, the fighters will do a group press conference, usually like the key fighters. And this past week, there were a lot of big name fighters. So they had 8 fighters doing a group press conference together. And that's where you get a lot of back and forth trash talking. And that's kind of, what fans want to see in that sport. When Colby Covington did his solo press conference, he left the stage, but then he came back and goes, oh, F LeBron James. He likes China. He doesn't like the USA. And he's been going after LeBron for quite some time. In Saturday's post-fight press conference, Covington actually went after Travis Kelce and brought up the whole Pfizer commercial, and then brought it up again on this PBD podcast. So he's gone from going after LeBron James, who never gave Colby Covington any kind of attention. Now he's going after Travis Kelce because I guess Kelce and Swift both lean towards the left. And I don't know, man. Like when people bring politics into things, I don't give a damn. Long story short, I think everyone lies. I used to be for a side. I used to be on both sides at one point in the past. Everyone lies, man. I mean, it's politics. I've learned that a lot over the years, more recently at least. But this whole thing, man, like to go after people's family members. And now, like, and by the way, isn't Colby, part of the crowd that says people should be free to think whatever they want? But you're criticizing someone else for doing a commercial. And again, listen, here's my thing, by the way, with Pfizer paying Travis Kelce supposedly $20 million. Me personally, I don't get swayed over very easily just because of a favorite athlete of mine. My favorite actor could be doing Pizza Hut commercials. Excuse me, I'm not going to start eating Pizza Hut because my favorite actor does it. Patrick Mahomes obviously does Coors Light commercials. You shouldn't be drinking Coors Light because your favorite quarterback is doing Coors Light commercials. You should drink it because you like it. I don't get easily influenced with that kind of thing personally. Some people do. By the way, why do you think a lot of politicians reach out and ask for endorsements? Why do you think Pfizer reached out to Travis Kelce? Because they know that those guys, they have a massive audience. They have a massive following. They got a big reach. Now, I'm sure Pfizer knew that Travis Kelce would get a lot of blowback. I'm sure Travis Kelce knew that he would get a lot of blowback for that Pfizer commercial, but they're reportedly paying him $20 million. Man, you want to pay me that much money to promote the vaccine? Show me the $20 million, show me the check, and I will say, yeah, put 2 Band-Aids on my right arm, and I will flex. I'll flex for the camera and say 2 things at once. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I would never do that. Well, wait until $20 million is offered to you. You really would not do it. Anyway, I don't want to get too further into it, but is Travis Kelce going to respond? Hopefully not. Because I do think it's funny that Colby Covington tried to get LeBron James' attention and could not get a response from him. He claims he was about to confront LeBron James, but his bodyguards would not allow it. Yeah, I don't buy that. Anyway, had to bring that up because that is a thing going on right now. Last time out, I want to give a shout out to Manscaped. Manscaped is a proud sponsor of the Chief Stone podcast. And I'll tell you what, maybe a little too late to order online and get something in time for Christmas, but it's never too late to make the right decision by switching over to Manscaped. Manscaped's got a lot of great products out there. The Lawnmower 5.0. I started with the Lawnmower 4.0. That was my first product from Manscaped, and I was very impressed with this. You want to take care of the grooming below the belt? The Lawnmower 5.0 is the place to go. You got a big beard? You got to go T like me? You want to take care of and make it nice, make it look good, especially for the camera when I do video podcasts? The Beard Hedger is for you from Manscaped. Manscaped's got a lot of great products. So many great products for facial hair, body hair, whatever the case might be, whatever you are looking for, Manscaped's got it. Also got some nice t-shirts, very comfortable, very good quality shirts, boxers. Take advantage of that. Go to manscaped.com and take advantage of my promo code Farzine20 from Manscaped. You can save 20% off and get free shipping from Manscaped when you enter the promo code Farzine20 at checkout. Go to manscaped.com, get what you want, and at checkout, don't forget, put in my promo code Farzine20 for 20% off and free shipping from Manscaped. All right, let's get right into it. Chiefs and Raiders. The Chiefs are 18-3 against the Raiders ever since Andy Reid took over as the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs can win the AFC West with a win on Monday. Now, if the Broncos lose and the Chiefs tie, the Chiefs can also win the AFC West that way. Don't anticipate that to be the case. Announcers for this game, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on CBS. However, if you would like to watch the Nickelodeon broadcast of this, and I'm not going to lie, I'm actually going to DVR this and watch it later, Noah Eagle, who is Ian Eagle's son, Nate Burleson, and Dylan Schefter will be on the Nickelodeon broadcast. Plus, I'm excited for this. This is actually the reason I'm going to DVR it and watch it later. You will get special analysis from Raphael and Donatello of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I will never turn down analysis from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. so they can talk about the Chiefs receivers dropping passes. I will 100% take the Ninja Turtles over Tony Romo. I think some people might do so as well. Referee Clayton Blakeman, head coach for the by the way, Clayton Blakeman, go ahead and prepare your complaints, win or lose, because some Chiefs haters are going to complain about the refs after this game. Head coach for the Raiders, interim head coach Antonio Pierce. Raiders are 6-8 on the season. Had a little bit of a hot streak going with Pierce, and then that game crashing down real fast. Offensive coordinator, also interim OC, Bo Hardgree. Total offense, 29th, fourth worst in the NFL. 22nd in passing, dead last in rushing, 24th in points per game, scoring just under 19 points per game, 25th in third down offense, and 22nd in the red zone. Raiders are coming off a 63-21 whiplashing win over the Chargers, which essentially chased out Brandon Staley out of LA. Raiders were up 49-0 early in the third quarter before the Chargers finally got in on the scoring, got a few touchdowns in the end there. Quarterback Aiden O'Connell, he's got 8 touchdowns, 7 picks on the year, 1,613 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, was sacked just once, and threw for 248 yards against the Chargers, was 20 of 34 passing, 59% completion percentage. So not a very high completion percentage, but enough to get the job done for sure. The previous week, when the Raiders lost 3-0 at home to the Vikings, Aiden O'Connell threw no touchdowns, had an interception, was sacked 4 times, and threw for just 171 yards. In fact, he had a higher completion percentage that week, was 21 of 32, had 66% of his passes completed. And the Raiders lost to the Vikings 3-0. The last time the Chiefs and Raiders played in Las Vegas, I was there for that. Aiden O'Connell threw a touchdown, no picks, was sacked once, but did throw for 248 yards, was 23 of 33 passing, 70% completion percentage there against the Chiefs in week 12. And here's the thing. I think during that time, too, I was complaining about the Chiefs' lack of pass rush at the time. I think they've picked it up a little bit lately. You got to go after Aiden O'Connell here. You have to. And I think if the Chiefs did that, I don't think the Raiders would have even gotten to 17 points in that game. Got off to a 14-0 start in that one, if you remember. Josh Jacobs was a part of that. He has ran for 805 yards, averaging 3.5 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns this year. He's 12th in rushing yards. He has the second most attempts this year behind Christian McCaffrey, which is interesting because he's not playing very well this year, but they keep feeding him the ball because they don't trust their quarterbacks right now. Now, he does have a quad injury, did not play last week, did not practice Thursday. So we'll see if he will be available for Monday's game, rather. He had 20 rushes for 110 yards against the Chiefs. Obviously had that big touchdown run to make it 14-0 in the game. That's just one of 2 games this year where he has ran for 100 yards on the season. Now, their backup running back is Amir White. He's got a touchdown and 123 yards. He's averaging 3.3 yards per carry, so almost the same as Josh Jacobs. He was a 4th-round pick last year from Georgia. He's never had more than 4 carries in a game in the almost 2 years he's been in the NFL until last week against the Chargers, where he ran 17 times for 69 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 catches for 16 yards against the Chargers in that blowout win. Amir Abdullah, another running back who might get involved, might be pretty active if Josh Jacobs cannot go. Abdullah ran 6 times for 32 yards against the Chargers. Davante Adams, one of the better receivers in the NFL. He has 84 catches for 968 yards, just outside of the top 10 in both catches and receiving yards in the NFL this year. He's got 5 touchdowns on the season. He had 8 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown against the Chargers. That's just his second 100-yard receiving game on the year, his first since week 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had 7 catches for 53 yards against the Vikings in that 3-0 loss the Raiders suffered. And against the Chiefs in week 12, he had 5 for 73 yards. Obviously, L'Jarius Sneed doing a great job this year against some top-tier wide receivers, Davante Adams included in that. Jacoby Myers, he had 59 catches, he has 59 catches for 648 yards and 7 touchdowns on the year. He leads the team in touchdown grabs with 7, and he had 2 for 32 and a touchdown last week. He was also 2 of 2 passing for 12 yards and a touchdown against the Chargers. So he got in on the passing action a little bit there. Hunter Renfrow, he has 25 catches for 255 yards, Rookie wide receiver Trey Tucker, former Cincinnati Bearcat, drafted in the third round this year. He had 3 catches for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. He did not have a catch for 3 consecutive games before that. And their tight end, Michael Mayer, he has 27 catches for 304 yards and a pair of touchdowns. He scored against the Chargers as well. The Raiders have touchdown passes to just 4 different players this year. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, who scored for the first time this past week, and Michael Mayer. Those are the only 4 players who have caught a touchdown pass for the Raiders this year. Just for comparison's sake, the Raiders have touchdown passes to 4 different pass catchers, but they have a rushing touchdown with 5 different players. That's bad. That deserves a trombone here. A couple of offensive linemen to highlight. Thayer Munford Jr., one of the better run blockers in the NFL, their left tackle. In fact, that's where Josh Jacobs ran, to the left side behind Munford Jr. to get that big run against Kansas City in Week 12. Jermaine Ellamore, one of the better right tackles as well. Greg Van Roten, former Buffalo Bill, one of the better offensive guards as well. His matchup against Chris Jones should be fun to watch in this game. So that is the Raiders offense in a nutshell for you. Switching over to the Raiders defense, coordinated by Patrick Graham, 17th in total defense, 11th against the pass, 23rd against the run. And they are 9th in the NFL in points per game allowed, just allowing 20 points per game. They held the Giants to 6 points, held the Jets to 12 points, held the Dolphins to 20 points. That's actually pretty impressive for the Raiders. Held the Vikings to 3 despite losing that one, held the Chargers to 21 in what was a blowout. Obviously, their defense kind of playing soft in the second half when they were already up 49-0. So you can hardly really say anything about the 21 points when you're winning in a blowout and scoring in the 60s. They're tied 6th, though, for the worst third down defense in the NFL. And I think that's going to be very important for Kansas City because the Chiefs do have one of the better third down offenses in the NFL. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have the 5th best offense. Yeah, they have the 5th best third down offense in the NFL. So you've got to hope, if you're Kansas City, you take advantage of this, because having a top 5 third down offense and going up against the team that's tied for 6th worst on third down, that is definitely something you want to have at your advantage there. So definitely something the Chiefs need to utilize in this game. Now, those are 5 of the last 6 games I mentioned. I obviously did not mention the Chiefs game, who scored 31 against this Raiders team that has been very good at not allowing a lot of points. But when you face a team like the Chiefs, even though their offense has not been great, you definitely see the Chiefs being able to do some things that other teams are not able to do on the Raiders defense. Chiefs offense wasn't really that bad too. Now that I think of it, they only ran 4 plays in the first quarter, and I think the Raiders did a really good job of controlling the ball. And here's what I will say about the Raiders. I think their worst mistake in the first half before the Chiefs tied the game was kicking a field goal on like 4th and 1. It was, I think it was like a 30-yard field goal attempt. I have it on here. I'll look it up later on. Yeah, it was a 30-yard field goal attempt, and Daniel Carlson missed. Why did you go for a field goal? You went for it on 4th down earlier on the drive. You were controlling the game. The Chiefs defense had absolutely no answer whatsoever for that Raiders defense. So I was really surprised that the Raiders did that. That was the Chiefs' best play during the 14-0 deficit, was the Raiders not going for it and missing a field goal. Now, keep one thing in mind with the Raiders, and they brought this up after losing to the Chiefs in Week 12. The Raiders were up 17-0 on the Chiefs last year on Monday Night Football, and they were up 14-0 on the Chiefs this year in Week 12 on the Chiefs. So the Chiefs seem to have this weird thing for letting the Raiders get off to early starts in 2 of the last 3 meetings. So I would have to imagine that if you're Andy Reid and if you're Steve Spagnuolo, I mean, the entire coaching staff, not just the defensive side, I would imagine there's a very important point of emphasis being made about not allowing the Raiders to get off to a hot start like that. Because as great as the Chiefs have been And coming back in these kinds of situations, at some point, it's not always going to happen here. And if you're the Raiders, and if you do get off to that kind of a start, you got to utilize that running game. Even though Josh Jacobs has not been good, the Chiefs in particular have not been great at stopping running backs. So if the Raiders do get off to a really good start like that, man, you better utilize that running game. Looking at the Raiders defense, specific players, Max Crosby, who is currently dealing with a knee injury. He was doubtful the last time the Chiefs and Raiders played, but he ended up playing. In fact, he got a sack on Patrick Mahomes in that one. Everyone talking about these two guys going at it. Of course, if you saw Quarterback on Netflix, you saw those two guys. We finally found out what they said. I still remember the whole thing when it happened, but we didn't know exactly specifically what was said. So everyone talking about that moment. Again, brought it up the first time. We were getting ready to see those two teams played, and it's being brought up again. Max Crosby, man, this guy is insane, though. 13 and a half sacks, tied fifth in the NFL. And he's also second in the NFL in tackles for a loss with 19. The dude's a monster. He really might be one of the better overall pass rushers, not just good at trying to put pressure on quarterbacks, but also really good at stopping the run too. He's a phenomenal player. He might be, he's arguably the Raiders' best player and the best player they've had the past couple of years. Now he does have a knee injury, but I don't think Max Crosby is going to be missing a Chiefs Raiders game. You would have to cut off his legs to make him miss the game. So Max Crosby is not missing the game, 100% not. Malcolm Kuntz, the other defensive end for the Raiders, has got 4 sacks on the year, 2 of them in that Chargers blowout win on Easton Stick last week. And by the way, let me pull this up real quickly. I actually did not have this. Let me quickly go to Pro Football Focus here. I should have had this ready, but I didn't, so I apologize for this. While we're waiting, Robert Spillane, one of the better linebackers in the NFL, in my opinion. The guy does seem to have a hand in every part of that Raiders defense. When you look at what he does, he's 11th in the NFL in tackles, with 119, 3.5 sacks, 6 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, a forced fumble, 6 tackles for a loss. When you compare those numbers to other middle linebackers across the NFL, those are numbers that you do not see other linebackers have. This guy seems to have a hand all over. Would not surprise me if Spillane is going to be part of the Pro Bowl or the All-Pro. You guys know my thoughts on the Pro Bowl. I think it's honestly lame with the voting and all that. You see a lot of bad players that get into the Pro Bowl. But I do think that Spillane should 100% be considered for Pro Bowl and All-Pro honors for sure. Now, the thing I wanted to bring up, Max Crosby, is he on the left side or the right side? He is on the left side. So he's going to be going up against Jawan Taylor. Kuntz is going to be going up against Wanya Morris, rookie left tackle. So the Raiders definitely want to try to beat a rookie anytime they can to get to Patrick Mahomes, because that is how you beat elite quarterbacks, trying to find that weakness on the offensive line to get to him. Jawan Taylor, yeah, I know he leads the NFL in penalties by a wide margin, but when it comes to his win rates at the line of scrimmage, he does win a lot of his battles there. He is one of the better right tackles in the NFL for sure. Just got to take care of all the pre-snap shit and the penalties, and he'll be overall a better right tackle for the team. The contract not looking too good though. Quarterback Jack Jones, he had a pick 6 against the Chargers. Former New England Patriot, by the way. He made his Raiders debut against the Chiefs in Week 12. Emick Robertson, he's got 2 picks on the year as well. Quarterback Nate Hobbs might see a lot of action against Rashee Rice in this one here. So for those who want to see Rashee Rice go off, he's probably going to be going up against Hobbs. And if not, it would not surprise me if the Raiders try to line him up. Or try to line Jack Jones up against Rashee Rice, that is. And then you have the safeties who not really the best. And I think the Chiefs can try to expose those, try to exploit that weakness in this game. And Trayvon Morig, who has a pair of picks. And then you also have Marcus Epps, the free safety for the Raiders. DeAndre Carter, the return specialist for the Raiders. He's averaging 23.6 yards per kick return and 10.7 yards per punt return. So nothing spectacular there. I mentioned Daniel Carlson earlier. He's made all 27 PATs, 20 of 24 field goals this year. He had that miss against the Chiefs. Also did make a field goal in that one as well. To make it 17 points for the Raiders. Did not attempt a field goal last week, made all 9 PATs in that blowout win over the Chargers. And I mentioned earlier he did miss that 30-yard field goal against the Chiefs. AJ Cole, one of the better players for the Raiders this year, second best punting average in the NFL, and leads the NFL in punt net average this season for the Raiders. So that's definitely one of the few bright spots the Raiders have had this year. Okay. You guys have heard all of my commentary up to this point, all of my thoughts, both the Raiders offense and defense in a nutshell, as well as their special teams unit. And now I'll give you guys my score prediction. I said, what did I say last time? I think I said 34-17, and I was very close the last time the Chiefs and Raiders played. It ended up being 31-17. Yeah, why not? Let's make it similar. I'm going to go 35-17 this time. I think the Chiefs go off. I think Travis Kelce will get his 1,000 yards for the season in this game, and the Chiefs will win the AFC West for the 8th year in a row. And what a better way to do it than against the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll read a few more comments before I get out of here. Like I said, we're not doing a Red Friday live chat today, so we'll do it by making up for this on this podcast. Rochelle says, I agree with you on the influence. If I don't like the product, I will not buy it. I think Kelce with me. Okay, I get the idea there. Yeah, listen, I know Patrick Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu in 2020 were encouraging people to vote, and I think that's awesome. I know Taylor Swift was doing voter registration drives also. I know that was brought up. So, I mean, listen, I'm never going to vote because someone is telling me to vote a certain way. But again, there's a reason why companies reach out to these people, these celebrities. There's a reason why politicians ask for endorsements, because they know that these people do have influence. Elaine says, shout out to Drew Lock. Yes, Lee Summit High School graduate. Yes, indeed. Obviously went to Mizzou. So that was pretty cool to see Drew Lock do his. Man, he was wheeling and dealing on that final drive. That was awesome. That was awesome to see. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is 10-1 all time against the Las Vegas Raiders. You are correct, Joshua, for sure. Rochelle says, I hope they beat the Raiders. They stole something and say Merry Christmas. Here's your present. Sammy says Chiefs defense is too good. The Raiders will be lucky to put up 20 in this game. Why hasn't Andy adjusted our offense to suit our personnel, or is Nagy to blame for the lack of adjustments? Okay, that's a really good question. We've kind of discussed this thing a lot this year. I think part of it is Nagy, because here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's Doug Peterson, doesn't matter if it's Matt Nagy or Eric Bieniemy or Nagy again. This has always been Andy Reid's offense. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, Eric Bieniemy, they've just been really the enforcers of this offense. That's how I describe it. They try to implement what Andy wants and try to do the things that Reid wants to see with this offense. I'm sure they have their influence and certain things they will put in to try to contribute to the coaching staff in a certain way. After all, I mean, those are all coordinators we're talking about here. But in terms of adjustments, that is more on Andy Reid than it is on Matt Nagy, I think, Ray, because this is his offense. He's the play caller. This is his show. This is the offense that he has control of and the offense that he's built. It's always been that way, even in Philadelphia. So I would say that's more on Andy. Now, Andy's the kind of guy that just doesn't give up on guys like MVS and Kadarius Toney. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's just the way it's kind of been for him. Kind of reminds me a lot of Dick Vermeil, who was always willing to give chances to guys, no matter how much they were struggling. And I think Andy Reid has a lot of that in him, for sure. Max Crosby, biggest start. Yeah, for sure. I know TJ Watt's having a great year, but I think Max Crosby might be. And by the way, I failed to mention this. I saw this on I can't remember who the Raiders were playing, but Kevin Harlan and Trent Green were calling the game, and they were talking about the amount of snaps that Max Crosby plays. And let me see if I can pull that up on Pro Football Reference, because they do a good job of pointing that stuff out. The amount of snaps that this guy plays is, I mean, it's wild. He plays a lot for that Raiders defense. Gosh, why is it so hard to pull up here? Let's see here. What do I got to do? Bear with me, guys. Crosby's only... When did Crosby get into the NFL? I'm having a difficult time finding that as well. Interesting. Oh, 2019. I don't know. I mean, for some reason, it feels like Crosby's been around longer than that. I don't know why. Yeah, okay. So you look at the amount of snaps he's played. So last week against the Chargers, he played 60% of the snaps because it was a blowout. But before that, against the Vikings, he played 97% of the snaps. Against the Chiefs, he played 82% of the snaps. Against the Dolphins, Jets, Giants, and Lions, in the span of 4 consecutive games, he played 100% of the snaps. The week before that, he played 97% of the snaps against the Bears. And in 3 other games, the Chargers, the Packers, and the Patriots played 100% of the snaps. Nobody plays as much as Max Crosby does at that position. Nobody. In fact, it kind of surprises me that we see more defensive backs play nearly 100% of the snaps. Sometimes they play all the snaps. Because those guys probably do a lot more of the running than pass rushers do. I get defensive backs are far better in shape than a pass rusher, but man, Max Crosby, like, the guy just does not want a break. None whatsoever. Every game this year, with the exception of 2, he's played at least 90% of the snaps, and one of them was a blowout win over the Chargers last week. The other one was against the Chiefs, where he was doubtful to play, which was 82%. This is fucking tough, man. Like, you hate the guy, but you got to respect the guy. That's how it is with Max Crosby. Let's see. Bob says the Raiders team is dangerous. We have to get off to a good start and compete. 24-17. Rochelle says 31-21. Clairvoyant says, I hope I said your name right. Chiefs going to win. I don't think he's ruled out just yet, Jeff. I don't think he's ruled out just yet. Andy is probably used to seeing guys like Tony and wants to give him a chance. Yeah. I mean, listen, he has had a lot of fast guys in the past. Guys like DeAnthony Thomas, Dexter McCluster, Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, you're right. He has seen a lot of guys with skill sets similar to Kadarius Toney. But man, he's just not cutting it. You just gotta be aware. I hope this info about Crosby Casey is looking at. 100%. Listen, I'm sure the team has other info that we don't know for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. For those of you who made it all the way through, thank you guys so much. This is the last show before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you guys. Big thanks to all of you. This has been a great year for the Chiefs Zone podcast. Brought it back this year. Was a little nervous. Didn't know if people would tune in, but man, you guys have absolutely killed it. We're not doing a Red Friday live chat today, but whenever we do a Red Friday live chat, I always started thinking no one's going to watch. It's Friday night. People have better things to do. And we always have a lot of people who tune in. So Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of you guys. Enjoy your weekend with family. If you guys are working on the holidays, props to you. I've been there before. It's not fun. So much props and much respect for those of you who are going to be working on Christmas and Christmas Eve. All right, guys. My name is Farzi Vasugi, and that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I am out. Enjoy the game. Talk to you Monday.